Hey there. I need to talk for a minute about marking and avoiding. And this is speaking to myself, but marking and avoiding means you mark and then avoid. You should not continue to engage, and it's very difficult. It's a temptation to continue engaging with someone that you've marked and now should be avoiding. And when I officially mark and avoid, I've only said like 3 or 4 names on my channel. I've marked and avoided lots of people, but when I say, look, we're going back and forth and it's public, so therefore I want you all to know we are not teaching the same thing. We do not agree. They've got problems that implicate they've got problems related to the gospel or to the way that they're operating. That it's not healthy to go back and forth. We're not on the same side, and we need to stop. I'm going to make a turn. Okay, that's when I'll bring up a name. And a few weeks ago, I brought up T Renshaw as a name and said I marked and avoided. But because I've been in her target sites for a year. Almost every post, every teaching she's done. She has said so many times, that she's going to wipe the dust off her feet, but she never does. Somebody said, I live rent-free in her mind. It's like become an obsession. And I've seen this with quite a lot of people. And it doesn't matter what I teach, she's going to focus on it to undermine it. Whether it's talking about sanctification, talking about rewards, talking about Christ as our life, or now she's brought it back to the discussion of the new covenant, Now here's the thing. I get emails and texts from people. Some are genuinely confused and they want me to sort something out. And so I'll teach because they're actually, others will say, they said this. Please do a video to address this. And in most cases I won't. If you already know it's wrong, why but I want to say one thing about her. I've said that her whole point is to be perceived as winning an argument. That's the whole point. Whether she admits it or not, she'll deny that up and down. And she uses crazy making as her way, and I've noticed that, and quite a few people have commented on the same thing. In direct interactions with her, if you're trying to, say no, that it's this or whatever, and you're going back and forth, she moves the goalposts. And an example would be like if I said, I really like my car. She may say, cars are illegal. And I'll say, no, there's rules of the road that are designed for cars. We're allowed to drive. You get a license, and it's a legal thing to drive cars on the road. Then she'll say, trucks are safer than cars. And you'll say, well, that's not necessarily true. They have more bulk, but cars are more navigable, And then you'll establish that point, and she'll say, you can't talk on your cell phone when you're driving. You say, well, what does that have to do with anything, and then she'll say, and you'll say, well, okay, fine, we can agree on that. And then she'll say, yeah, but I saw you smoking while you were driving. See, the conversation moves around. That's a bad example, but it's like, she started by saying cars are illegal and ended with saying you're smoking while you're driving. And it's like, wait, I thought you said cars were illegal in the first place. The point, though, is that she's perceived by her audience as, oh, she's really got him that time. Oh, she's winning the debate that time. And it's like, there's no debate. This is not even a rational discussion. That's called crazy making, when they just spin you all around, get you to respond to this, then ignore your response to that and make another assertion. That's what's been going on for a long time. And for the most part, I've ignored it. as much as I can. Like I said, unless someone brings it to my attention, I'm not going looking at, we call it dumpster diving. We don't go to these people's walls and watch what they're saying about us and look at their videos and all that stuff. No, that's disobedient. We need to mark and avoid so that these conversations and arguments don't go on and on and on. But it's hard because you still have to answer for your teaching, But when it gets to a point where I'm no longer answering for my teaching, but I'm just turning around, and they're making more assertions and moving the argument around so that you've never established a point that's been listened to and responded to, it's just dumb. And Colleen Be Still and Know did a video the other day saying, it was called like same old, and the gist of it is, look, we could go on and on about the new covenant, and it's a secondary issue. There are sound dispensational teachers that teach that there's a blessing in the new covenant for the Gentiles, and that the church partakes of the soteriological benefits, salvific benefit of the new covenant because we have the Spirit. And while I disagree, it's not that big of a deal because they're not using it to backload works into the gospel and put the church under law and to erase the distinction between Israel and the church. They're not doing so much theological damage. But when it becomes something worth addressing is when people are using it to corrupt the gospel and corrupt areas of the Christian life by backloading works or putting you in the expectation of a spirituality that's not available now, that kind of thing. Now, that's her MO. That's why she's marked and avoided. She teaches what I call Galatian error, which is, having begun in the Spirit, we're now to be perfected in the flesh. But she redefines the flesh. She's got malleable terms because she'll say anything to be perceived as winning an argument, and she'll borrow our language so you can never pin down exactly what she's teaching or what she's fighting against. She's not fighting against a principle per se, or a teaching. It's people. She doesn't like us. She wants to convince you that she's right and we're wrong, that she's in the truth and we're in error. And that's just divisive. That is a divisive party spirit. That is Corinthian. That's about who's right, not about the truth. And it's been like that for a long time. And she definitely puts burdens on people and teaches works sanctification. She calls it practical sanctification. She used to teach that it was the law of Moses. Then she tried to change it to it's the commandments of Christ, to be up to date in her language. And then when we showed her that the commandments of Christ is the law of Moses, the synoptic teaching of the synoptic gospel is the law of Moses. Christ under the law is a minister to the circumcision. She said, what's the commands of the apostles? But it's always commandment keeping, never cleaving to Christ himself. And she says, well, you're separating Christ from his commandments. No, you are, when you take the commandments apart from the person of Christ and say that we can keep them. No, it's Christ as life that the commandment points to. And we live by faith in him, not by commandment keeping. And we've taught on all this. And we've taught about the difference between the new commandment and the commandments of Christ in the Gospels. The new commandment is something that's true in us. And also, she's never addressed any point that we've answered. She's just then said, well, yeah, but, trucks have four wheels. Just the next thing she'll say is completely not consistent with any kind of conversation, not acknowledging anything we've said, and then going on and making another assertion that we're supposed to answer for. Meanwhile, she associates herself with corruptors of the gospel. Morris Blackburn openly teaches a Calvinistic, backloaded, fruit-inspecting works gospel that she's even rebuked him for. Okay? But she should have marked and avoided him. Now she's sharing his post because they both don't like me. So, there's no order in any of that. It's chaos. It's confusion. It's division. And I don't want to keep answering to it. I don't want to keep teaching about the new covenant. I've got a whole playlist on that stuff. I will as the Lord leads, because people are getting clearer and clearer about it. People couldn't hear it a year ago are now getting clear on it, because they're seeing it being mishandled, the new covenant, to bring people into bondage. They can see that now, which is why I brought it up in the first place. So it's a back door for legalism, and now they're seeing that actually being applied, and they go, oh yeah, you know. So we do need to teach on it, but I'm not going to teach in answer to her. So please don't, I'm telling my subs, don't send me emails anymore saying, please do a video to address her. I don't want, if you are enjoying this fellowship, then we need to all obey. If you believe she's a false teacher and teaching things contrary to the doctrine we receive that cause offenses and stumbling, then she is to be marked and avoided. Now, I can't tell you to do that, but that I'm telling you that's what I'm doing. And so I'm not going to be responding anymore if possible. I mean, and pray for me that I would not be ensnared in continuing to box at the air by addressing her continual accusations. Like I said, she's got a big target on my back, and I live rent-free in her mind. She's obsessed. She needs to mark and avoid me too if she thinks I'm a false teacher. So that's where we're at, okay? And it's public, so nobody, I wouldn't address it if it wasn't public and everybody already knew. But please don't email me saying, look what they're saying now. Look what they're saying now. I don't care what they're saying anymore. Really. What they say has no bearing on anything. If you, at this point, can't see the difference between what we teach and what they teach, and you're still undecided, then it's because you're not familiar with what we teach, or you are watching for something other than the truth. You're engaged in personalities or something. That's, now it's on everybody to make a decision what you believe and then go with that. But again, if you don't agree that we're under the, if you think we're under the new covenant and you don't agree with my teaching on that, that's fine, as long as you don't make it a primary issue and use the new covenant to backload works into the gospel and corrupt it. Okay, take care.